Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you the rundown on all the books that I've read this summer, and let me just tell you, there are a lot. I've read 13 books this summer, and I'm going to give you a kind of mini review of each one of them. So these are books that I read between May and the end of August. So I'm going to show you them in order that I read them and give you a little synopsis and what I thought about them. Before we get started, go ahead and hit subscribe so that you don't miss any of my future videos. And with that, let's get started. Alright, so starting off, the first book that I read was actually a series, and I reread the Selection series. I originally read these books when I was like 13, 14 years old, kind of like right before high school. I went through a phase in high school where I was just like, they're making me read books that I don't want to read. I just don't like reading at all anymore. So these were kind of my like last real books that I enjoyed before I kind of quit reading for a while. So they hold a lot of nostalgia for me, but I actually don't remember the plot of them very well before I actually reread them. So it was kind of like a series that I could read, have nostalgia for, but not really know everything that was going to happen. So I actually picked these up right after I got sick in May. I kind of had like some kind of stomach bug or something, and I just did not feel good. I didn't want to put the TV on because it was like hurting my eyes. I had a headache. So I picked these up off my shelf and started reading them, and let me just tell you, I read all 3 books in 3 days. Like, they are extremely addicting. Once you pick them up and get started in the story, you just can't put them down. I love them. They are YA, so they're immaturely written and can be kind of frustrating at times because they have a love triangle in them, but they're very good, very addicting. So basically the story follows America Singer, who is a 5 in this society that is basically set up with like ranks. So you have like 1s through 8s, and the lower you are, like the worse off you are. So 1s are the royalty, like the queen and king, prince, all that. And then you have your 8s, which are homeless people. And America is a 5, which is like artists and performers and all of those kind of things. So it's kind of ironic. Her last name is Singer. And she, when the book starts, is dating a boy named Aspen Ledger, who is a 6. So he's lower than her. And she's like dating him secretly because she doesn't want her family to know, because he's lower than her and they don't want her to marry down. Then the selection applications roll around, and she gets convinced by her family to apply to be in the selection, but she doesn't actually want to be there. She's not like other girls and does not like the prince. She thinks that he is stuck up and she doesn't want to go, but as luck would have it, her name gets drawn, and right before she leaves, her and Aspen break up by Aspen's doing. He breaks up with her. And so she goes off to the castle to do the selection process, but she does not like Maxon. She's like, I don't like the prince. He's stuck up and doesn't know anything about his people. So instead, they end up making a friendship because he's not what she thought. He's not bad like she thought, but she's still in love with Aspen, so they agree to be friends. However, a relationship eventually does develop, and it becomes a love triangle between Maxon and Aspen, because Aspen somehow finds his way into the castle. I won't spoil how, but there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of back and forth. America can't make up her mind, so it can get kind of frustrating because you just know who she's supposed to be with, and like you're pretty sure who she's going to end up with during the book, but she keeps going back and forth and like can't make up her mind. But it's a very good series, and basically if I could describe it in like a couple of words, I would say it's The Bachelor, but royalty. So if you like that kind of thing, this is going to be an extremely good series for you. Highly, highly recommend, especially if you are a younger audience, like middle school, high school age. You're going to love these. I can't say the same thing about the next couple though. The next 2 books that I read are The Heir and The Crown, which are the sequel series to The Selection. Follows the final couple's daughter, who is now the princess of Ilia, which is the country. And they're basically having a gender swapped selection series or selection process. So now we have boys coming to the castle to be selected from. And honestly, I don't mind the gender swap situation, but the main character is not likable at all. She's very stuck up, very about herself, and like thinks that she's so important because she's the princess, and she's just not a very likable person, so it makes it really hard to read. Also, it feels like fan fiction when you're reading it because it does not have the same vibe that the original series did, and it's really weird because it's the same author. And if anything, I feel like these should have gotten better because she was a more experienced writer, but they just did not. They were not what I was looking for at all. I did read both of them because I was like that committed into the series, but I was definitely frustrated by the way that this book went. All the original characters' personalities were completely watered down. They were not well-written characters. And honestly, I just really didn't like them very much. Like, I would probably give these like a 1.5 to 2 star rating. And the original 3 would probably have like a 3.5 to 4 stars. So that just kind of shows you like the decline in quality that these books were. I definitely, if you're going to read the original trilogy, make up your own ending in your head because you'll be more satisfied that way. Like, these are not the ending that I was hoping for, at least whenever I was reading the books. So don't recommend these at all. The next book that I read is This Is Where It Ends, and this is a book that has a couple trigger warnings. It is a school shooting book and has some violence, domestic violence kind of trigger warnings in it. So if that's not something that you want to read or can handle, I would not read this book. But that being said, this is a extremely good book that really makes you question yourself, your decisions that you would make, and see things from different people's perspectives, which I really enjoyed. It made me think a lot, not only while reading it, but like after reading it. I sat for a couple days, didn't read anything else because I was just thinking about everything that happened in this book. This book follows 4 different high schoolers at the school that obviously gets attacked. It follows your school shooter's sister and her girlfriend, and then the girlfriend's twin brother, and also the school shooter's ex-girlfriend. So you have this dynamic that they all know each other, and all of them have different relationships with each other. Some of them are strained, some of them are good, some of them have to be kept secret. Like, the lesbian romance has, this book takes place in the South, so they're kind of keeping it a secret because they're going to be judged by people. There's some self-sacrifice involved in this. There's a lot of tough decisions that the characters have to make, and they're only like 16 or 17 years old, so it's just really sad to see them try to process this. You get a lot of internal like dialogue and thought processing for all of the characters, and also you get to see the perspective of what has happened to the shooter in the past that led him to what he did, and you get a really weird emotion about it because you feel bad for him and everything that he went through, but then at the same time you can't really sympathize with him because of everything that he's doing. So it kind of toys with your emotions, makes you think a lot, and honestly, if you're looking for a book that is going to make you think, make you cry, and probably make you want to scream all at the same time, this is a good place to start for that. It's just very sad, so I will give you that warning. You will most likely cry. The characters are easy to get attached to, and yeah, this book also all takes place over like 54 minutes, so it's a very short time span, but you get every minute in a different character's perspective, so you get to see everything that's happening, and it immerses you into feeling like you are there, which I think is part of what makes you have that decision-making, questioning process, because you feel like a character that's there. But yeah, if you guys read this, let me know what you thought, because I definitely had a hard time with this one, but I really enjoyed it. Next, I was really missing the romance that I loved from the Selection series, so I grabbed a couple of romance novels. I went directly to Colleen Hoover and grabbed the Ugly Love book, which is not only one of my favorite books that I read this summer, but one of my favorite books of all time. This book is so good. It is a brother's best friend romance, and it's so good. Like, let me just wallow in it for a minute. It's such a good book. It jumps between past and present perspective with different characters. So present perspective you get with Tate, who is the main female protagonist in the story. She is obviously, she falls for Miles, who is extremely closed off to love, doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't even want to talk to her at first about anything related to it, but eventually it becomes a friends with benefits situation that Tate develops really strong feelings for him, and he's really closed off. She just doesn't understand why. And then you also get to see the past perspective of Miles in his first relationship in high school and why he is so closed off to love and so doesn't want anything to do with it. There's huge plot twists at the end that explain everything, makes everything make sense. And honestly, this is one of the best books that I've ever read. It will make you cry. I read this in a weekend, so I spent a couple days after that just digesting it because it was so good. Like, it does have a happy ending, so don't get turned off to it by me saying that it's sad. It has a happy ending, but a lot of trauma, especially for the main male character. I feel so bad for him, but you will love this book if you give it a chance. So good. Also, my AC kicked on, so if it's loud, I apologize. I can't do anything about it. It's just really loud. The next book that I read is another Colleen Hoover book, and it is It Ends With Us. I picked this book up and had no idea what it was about, so I will give you guys a couple of trigger warnings. It has domestic violence involved in it, but it is an extremely good book, so if you can handle that, I would definitely recommend reading. I feel like everyone should read this in their lifetime if they can, because it leaves such a good commentary on domestic violence not being what you would typically associate it with being, and I'll explain a little bit of what I mean in a minute. But this book follows Lily, who is the main character, and it jumps a little bit between past and present, but does it differently than the Ugly Love book does, because you see the past through letters that Lily wrote to Ellen but never sent, the letters basically talk about her first love, which is Atlas, and he was a homeless boy she met in high school who she helped take care of, but they had a huge falling out, and they don't talk anymore. They haven't seen each other in years, and you'll learn why throughout the book, but it's very sad. And then in the present tense, you're following Lily falling in love with her new boyfriend, Ryle, who is a doctor, and he definitely has this I hate everyone in the world but you trope down pat. It's more of a I'm closed off to everyone in the world but you. He doesn't do relationships really, but he ends up falling in love with Lily, and their relationship progresses a lot, but then the past and present kind of intertwine with each other, and there's a lot of jealousy involved, a lot of drama, and then some bad things happen, and then it gets really crazy. Basically, I can't really say anything else without leaving a spoiler, but I will say that the title is not what it seems. It will kind of throw you for a loop with what happens, but I'm just going to say a little bit about the book as a whole. Leaves a commentary on domestic violence as not being what you typically would see it as this just like asshole guy beating on his wife, because in this you see the guy be great to Lily like 95% of the time, but then there's that 5% where he's just terrible and hurts her, and you understand why it's hard for women to leave a domestic violence relationship, because it's not always bad and they think they can save them and fix it and oh, it won't happen again. But it's great to see how the book ends because it does have a happy ending. So if you've read this book, let me know what you thought. But I did a reading vlog on this, so if you guys want to see my raw reaction to it, I'll link it above. It's so good, but so sad. Then I started reading another series. I read the first 3 books in the Red Queen series. There are 4 of them, but I have not gotten around to reading the last one yet. But I'm going to give you guys a little overview of at least what the first book is like. I don't really want to tell you too much about the other 2 because it will spoil the ending of this one, because you like have to know what happens. Major plot twists at the end of this one, I will tell you that. But basically, the Red Queen series takes place in a society that is split into two classes of people, and it's by the color of their blood, of all things. So there are the people with red blood, who are ordinary citizens, have no special abilities or anything like that. And then you have the silver people, who have special powers that range from like controlling fire to controlling metal to making plants grow and all kinds of other things. And it's kind of inherited based on your family. So like each family has different powers, and they are the ruling class. Like they are royalty and nobility and things like that, and they treat the red people horribly. They get treated like trash pretty much. They're all servants and like there to basically do everything that the silver people don't want to do. But the story follows the main character, Mare Barrow, who is a red girl who has to steal to survive pretty much. She comes from a family of 5 siblings, and her disabled father and her mom, her 3 brothers who are all older than her, are all fighting a war that has been going on for like 100 years and stuff like that. So she's kind of trying to provide for her family, and a series of events leads her to being at the castle during the day of the Queen's trial, which is basically where like every noble silver family presents their like eligible daughter to the prince and the king and all of that by her showing off her powers, because they want the woman with like the strongest abilities to get with the prince pretty much, so that they can create the strongest heirs. So during all of this, something happens and Mare ends up falling into the electric force field that like protects the spectators from getting hurt by all like the power demonstrations, but she doesn't die. She figures out that she has lightning/electricity powers and gets swept off by the prince and the king to basically be hidden as a lost silver princess, because she has red blood and they don't understand why she has powers, so they're trying to hide it so it doesn't become like a rebellion point for like all of the red people to be like, we have powers now too, like at least some of them. So she has this like kind of hidden identity trope, and there's a little bit of a love triangle involved, and it's very dramatic. The plot twist at the end, there's 2 of them. You will probably scream at least at one of them and want to throw the book across the room. You're literally going to have a heart attack. Like, I finished the book while I was at the beach, and I drove to a bookstore that day to get the next one because I was that needing to know what happened. Like, I was like, that did not just happen. Like, you want more like the whole time you're reading it. So super, super good series so far. I'm not going to tell you anything else because I would spoil something on accident, but I still have 1 book to read in the series, and I'm so excited to see how it ends. If you guys have read this, you know what I'm talking about the end of the first book. It's crazy. It will shock you a lot. The next book that I read, I also did a reading vlog for, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book is so beautifully written. It's like an intellectual romance novel. It follows Patroclus and Achilles in a Greek mythology story, but the good thing is you don't have to know anything about Greek mythology to understand the story. I have a very, very small background in it because I read the Percy Jackson series when I was younger, and in like iLeap in elementary school we did like a Greek mythology unit, but my knowledge is very, very minimal, and I perfectly understood the story. You don't have to know anything about it. It is a well written romance story about Patroclus and Achilles and their kind of progression from enemies to friends to lovers. It is so tragic the way that it ends. The quotes in this book are beautiful. You will literally want to get them tattooed on yourself. Like, I'm like, do I need that tattoo? Maybe. They are so beautiful. And there's also another book by this author that I'm thinking about picking up, so if you guys have read it, let me know. It's called like Circe. If it's good, let me know, because I would definitely pick it up and read it. This book is so good. If you want to see the reading vlog I did on it, I'll link it for you guys. Definitely read this if you haven't already. And the last book that I have read during this summer is the first book of the Harry Potter series, because I'm rereading the whole series for nostalgia purposes. I'm doing a reading vlog of all of them. I'm doing it in kind of a series, so I'm doing the first 3 and then the second set, like the 4 and 5, and then 6 and 7. And I'm currently halfway through the second one, so I'm really enjoying that. But the first one I read at the very end of August, right after I moved into my apartment here, and honestly, the nostalgia burst that it gives me is crazy. I read these for the first time when I was in like 4th and 5th grade, so I was like 9 and 10 years old. And I'm about to turn 21, so it's been a long time. I was like, it's been 11 years, and they turn 11 when they start Hogwarts, so I was like, it's perfect timing. And honestly, I just really wanted something nostalgic to read. I've watched the movies so many times since I've read the books, but I've not picked up the books since I read them the first time, so I figured it was time to read them again, and honestly, I'm so glad that I have. They're so well written. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I read this summer from May to August. I am so glad that I've started reading again. I love using it as an escape from real life. I can't wait to read more books. I have an entire bookshelf worth of books set up here at my apartment ready to be read. So if you guys enjoy this type of content and want to see more, definitely give me a thumbs up so I know that you guys like it, because I would love to continue making book videos. I'm planning to make like reading wrap-ups at the end of every month from now on, but I did not do them this summer, so I just wanted to do a real big one for you guys and show you all of what I've been reading. If you're looking forward to my Harry Potter reading vlog, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that, and turn on the notification bell so you get notified when I upload. But I am going to go ahead and end this video here. Let me know if you've read any of these books or added them to your TBR because of this video. I would love to know what you think, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.